So excited, so excited, so excited. What's going on, social media world, the global world, man? And listen, this is Coach Clavon. It's an honor, it's a distinction, it's a privilege and a pleasure to represent, to be here with you guys on Uncommon Mondays. I'll tell you something, this podcast has exceeded my expectations. Week after week, we've had some uncommon men on this podcast talking about success, empowerment. Uh, and here we are, episode 16. And I got to say, I'm very proud of what we've accomplished. Let me just give a shout out to everybody watching this on our YouTube channel. Please subscribe to the channel. Like the broadcast, leave comments. If you're on our social media outlets, share the broadcast right now. Information is power. Applied information is life changing. And again, guys, welcome to the Uncommon Movement, the Uncommon Universe, guys. We are making history. And our job and our goal is to, extend our hands and make an impact on people's lives globally, to touch men, young men from the ages of 16 and above, and show them a path to success based on our standards, based on our mission statement, based on what we feel is important, bringing the proper mentors, the proper information. And I'm excited. And tonight we're going to do something a little different. Tonight I have the pleasure to interview a gentleman I have a tremendous amount of respect for, business partner, friend, mentor, coach, someone who has walked the walk, someone who doesn't just talk the talk, but again has walked the walk and made an impact on hundreds of thousands of families around the world. Someone who has built multiple companies to billions of dollars in status and paid out hundreds of millions of dollars in commissions. If you catch that, you understand it's a very distinctive, rare air we're talking about in the business world, in the business world of direct sales and network marketing and global leadership training. But without further ado, I want to bring my partner to the forefront, CEO, Mr. Dan Putnam. Dan, what's going on, partner?
Hey, not a whole lot. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear, man. I can hear you loud and clear. Tonight, it's about, me being able to get into your mind and having you share some things with everybody in the world. But before we get started, Dan, how has your week been? What's going on? I know you're traveling. Don't go too deep, but just how you doing, bro?
Man, doing fantastic. Yeah, it's been a busy week. Went down, had some meetings in Las Vegas. Decided to drive because I had several meetings along the way. So had some meetings in Provo, some meetings in St. George, and some meetings in Las Vegas on Thursday. Meetings in San Diego on Friday and Saturday. I have a rental in Rosarito, Mexico. So across the border, went and we're doing a few things on the rooftop there, beach house there. Didn't get the great weather, Clavon. It was kind of chilly and rainy, but up in Salt Lake and Layton, it was a lot of snow. So I guess I traded the snow for the rain.
Yeah.
And then today, drove back, had some more meetings in Las Vegas. Went a little bit long, and was worried about getting here in time. So just pulled up about 5 minutes before at one of my houses here. I have this house in St. George, Utah, so southern Utah, about 350 miles south of where I live, and I'll continue that on and get home tomorrow. So been a busy week, but a lot of exciting things going on.
I love it, man. I respect and honor your commitment, brother. You don't make any excuses and you're making it happen, and lets me know that this podcast and this mission, this movement is important to you. And that's amazing, brother. We've made it 16 episodes, and I thought tonight we'd do something a little different. I thought instead of just having a verbal overview of what uncommon means, maybe I could ask you some questions and let the uncommon movement unfold as you break down what each element means to you as a global leader and as somebody who, like I said, doesn't just talk the talk, but walks the walk. I want to get right into it, Dan, because everyone wants to know, what is going on with this uncommon movement. And we're going to go one at a time. So we're not going to go through all the pillars in one statement, but just as a brand, just as what it means to empower men and adolescent men from 16 and above, what was, and I want to just really get deep, like based on your life, Dan, you coming up, how you were raised, what is it in this season that makes you feel like an uncommon movement is necessary? And what is the real fuel for this fire from your perspective?
You know what? There's a lot of good questions there, Clavon. But really, the vision of this is just to first give opportunity for all males 16 and up. Second, to provide mentorship, provide an exact roadmap to follow in order to become successful. And really, the whole thing is just the way I look at it. If you want to look at what creates success, success never happens without opportunity. So that's the first step. So just to make it easy, we wanted to provide a very fair and proven opportunity for everybody. Once you find an opportunity, the next thing is you need to the imagination. And then the last thing is just once you find that, you have to be willing to take action. And so you need some accountability. And so basically, we've just put together an opportunity with mentorship and systems and all of that that we feel will give every single person their best chance of having success and having a life that they can really see what they're capable of becoming, see what's out there, and really just get out of the grind, even though there is some grind to it, and you do have to be willing to put in the work for success. Clavon, we're living in 2024.
Right.
One of the things that I've learned is success leaves clues. That's really the purpose of this podcast, is just to interview successful person after successful person after successful person, leave as many clues as we can. And with today's technology, a global, opportunity, there's no reason it should take any more than really 1 to 2 years to be able to build some amazing success if you have the right opportunity, the right mentors, the right system, and you take some action. But just because there's so many people that have created that map for us and have led the way, that there's not a whole lot of guesswork anymore. We just
Yeah.
have to be willing to put in the work, have the belief in ourselves, and make things happen. And I look at it this way. Um, when I was growing up at 16, I really had no clue what I wanted to do. I wasn't really looking for opportunity. My focus then was really, I guess I knew exactly what I wanted to do, but it was in one of those things that you have like maybe a tenth of 1% chance of succeeding. So for me, it was all about sports. I love kind of all kinds of sports, but in particular, I really liked hockey, golf, football. Though those are three things that I focused on, three things that I liked. And when I got into college, I realized that, man, it's a whole different level, and that's not even close to doing it for a living. And so, probably about 20 years old, 19, 20, the realization came that, you know what, I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to make a living.
Hmm.
And that got real in a hurry, Clavon.
Hmm.
I don't know. I think that every man, or probably every person, eventually comes to that realization that,
Yeah.
man,
It's
I gotta figure some things out that I can take care of myself, and hopefully be able to take care of a family and things like that. Um, and so I really didn't know what the options were. I didn't know what to do. I didn't have any like great ideas, any good plans. And so it's a scary place.
right.
And I personally think that right now in technology, as fast as things are changing, I couldn't imagine being 16, 17, 18 and trying to figure out what I'm going to do. So many things are really not even going to be relevant 4, 5, 6, 7 years from now.
Right.
And
Change.
so if I'm 15, 16, 17, and I had to figure out something that's going to be relevant for the next 30, 40, 50 years, that's tough.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's really the driving force and the passion behind this.
Got it.
It is literally just to kind of put out a helping hand and say, hey, we got you. We know what we're talking about is going to be relevant. We focus on creating your own economy, and that will always be relevant. Meaning
Oh,
we don't have to worry about the, you know, uh, I don't, I mean, I have some political views, but I
mm,
don't worry too much about it. I don't worry too much about the economy. I focus on creating my own economy, creating my own worth, as opposed to letting somebody else tell me what I'm worth.
let me
And so
ask
we
you
really want to get people to step outside of that.
something. I love that, and I want to come back to that because that is focus on creating your own economy. One of the most powerful financial literacy statements I've ever heard, and I'm telling you that right now in real time. But what I want to do is I want to take a slow step by step journey.
Yep.
And what I love about Uncommon are the pillars that it stands on. The overall culture blows my mind. And Dan, I'm looking at you, buddy, and I'm seeing every week. I don't know, man. You're dropping 2 to 3 pounds a week. And I know you're feeling great. You're looking great. I know it's a mission. We talk about it all day, every day, both of us. And let me just say that I grew up in a mom and pop health food store. Back in Jersey. That was the business that my family invested in. As a little kid in elementary school, I was behind the counter. Our health food store had over 400, 500 different raw herbs, vitamins, and groceries. We had a juice bar in the back, and it was just phenomenal growing up in that environment, getting the understanding about disease prevention and holistic health. Eating healthy, minerals making up the body, and learning all this kind of stuff. And so this has been like natural to me to always be in the space of nutrition and health and wellness, right? And so I want to talk to you. I want to ask you a question about why that was so important to you to make health and fitness, health, nutrition, and wellness the number one focus, the first of 5 pillars of the Uncommon movement. And then even how that works with you, always on the road, and how do you keep that a priority and a focus? You're doing great, but just share with the world why that's the key to the movement and why we put that number one.
You know what? I think most people have heard as our health is our first wealth, probably our true wealth. And it's something that we're 100% in control of. It's really completely up to us. And, Clayvon, it hasn't been something that I always really focused on. When I was younger, I felt good. I didn't really focus that much on eating a particular healthy diet or anything like that. I played sports all the time. I could kind of just eat what I want. My mom always, made good food when we were at home and had kind of like the healthy diet that, you typically have. We always had our own garden. So she grew our own vegetables. We normally had chickens and had our own eggs and she was always cooking and things like that. But when I got into college, that was just all out the window. It was like Top Ramen, Taco Bell, McDonald's, just going, late night runs to the convenience store and getting sodas and nachos and things like that and didn't really pay any attention to it and just over the years had just bad habits kind of creep up on you without thinking about it. And I was just focused on making money. I was just like, hey, I feel great, I'm young, all of these things. I'm not too worried about health and fitness. And I really haven't had any health problems. I haven't ever been on, prescription or anything like that for high blood pressure or any of those. But for about the last probably, I would say 10 years, I've struggled with my weight, just kind of an ongoing battle of, and again, it's just from just not focusing on it, focusing on other things, making a lot of excuses. And I would literally um, make the goal, okay, I'm going to get in better shape. I'm going to, growing up as an athlete, I always stayed in pretty good shape. My cardiovascular was always pretty good and still is pretty good. Even within the last few years, I've done 1 year, I think 2 years ago, did 5 half marathons in 1 year. Um, and really didn't train for them or anything like that. I didn't break any records, but I finished them all, without problems and things like that. So, um, but the more I've really thought about it, Clavon, I thought, you know what? Far too often we don't think about our health until we have a problem.
Exactly.
So I wanted to bring the forefront to, hey, this is something that every single one of us can control.
Mm.
We're in control of it. Nobody else is deciding our health and our fitness level other than ourselves. And so, and when I started to study and I started to look, it's actually far more common to make $1 million a year than to be in great physical condition. Meaning
Mm.
there's a lot more people that are millionaires than are staying in good shape. And I started to think, you know what? Um, there's something wrong with that. And with this uncommon movement, we wanted to, what does it mean to be uncommon? It means
Mm-hmm.
to not just be what the masses are. So
Right.
if you go to, you see like all the memes and all the jokes of like the people of Walmart and things like that, and you see all these pictures of just everybody obese. I have no problem with Walmart. I didn't put together these memes or anything like that. But it's just if you just look at what the average person is, it's pretty much out of shape, too much fat on their body, all those things. And if you just leave that for too long, nothing good comes from it.
Right.
You start to age prematurely. You
Mm-hmm.
start to have all kinds of health conditions that can be crazy expensive.
Mm-hmm.
You end up being a burden for your spouse or significant other, kids, different things like that, grandkids and stuff. You really can't even play with them and show them the lifestyle or show the example
Mm-hmm.
of what is possible. And being a male, who wants their dad to be fat, out of shape, no motivation, and things like that? I mean, who I always grew up with my dad being my role model and wanting to be just like him and stuff like that. He is a fireman. Then he worked managed in a steel yard, was always super strong, fix anything on a car, fix anything on a house, all of those types of things. I looked at that as like, man, that's how I
Superhero.
want to be. And
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't moving in that direction. And I just thought, man, I need to, if I'm going to create a movement for males, and health and fitness is the first thing, I
Mm-hmm.
got to be an example. I got to do a better job. And hey, I still got ways to go, but I guarantee you, I'm going to get there and reach my goals with this, and hopefully take a whole bunch of people with me. One of the things that I see as being maybe the only benefit of being, fat and not in as good a shape as you could is if you get in good shape, more people can kind of identify
The
with you
story.
than if you were always in great shape and people think, oh, well, you don't really know what it's like. You don't know what I'm going through, those types of things. And so the reason that we put health and fitness as a big part of uncommon is just because it is so rare when somebody focuses on their health and their fitness. and
Yeah.
and you can see some of the biggest influencers and brightest minds in business right now. Almost every single one of them is focusing on getting in shape, but it wasn't always that way. I mean, go look at like Jeff Bezos before and afters, before
Mm.
he made billions and after. And even
Mm.
look at Elon Musk and some of that. Look at what Mark Zuckerberg's been doing.
Mm-hmm.
in the gym, practicing jujitsu, joining tournaments, fighting, all of those different types of things, and look at them before. So again, there gets to be a point
Yeah.
that most people realize that, you know what, I only have one body. I better
Right.
take care of it. And we just want people to focus on that as soon as possible.
Yeah.
One of my old business partners, who he was, I don't know his exact age, but probably early 60s at the time. Now he's probably mid 70s or something. Stayed in good shape pretty much his entire life. And one of the things he said, what I found is the best way to stay in shape is to never let yourself get too far out of shape.
Shape. Yeah.
And so I just figure if we're really wanting to create a movement of just people that are living their best life,
Yeah.
health and fitness has to be a big part of it.
Right there.
And so it's just to kind of put it in the forefront, because there wasn't anybody getting on me about health and fitness and things like that, and starting to pay attention and helping with a roadmap and to focus on it, and all of those. And you know what, I just didn't focus on it. I
Right.
travel a lot. I still travel a lot, so I had all the excuses. uh I've said them all a bunch of times. Jobs with a ton of stress, and all of these things, and so many business meetings and stuff like that are all built around food. Um,
Right.
Traveling all the time. Not having the ability to cook, but again, there's people in great shape that travel a lot more than I do. And you can sit there and make excuses all day long. At the end of the day, it doesn't do anything for you. You
No.
know what I mean? So do you want to make excuses, or do you want to do something about it? I decided, hey, if we're putting this together,
Yeah.
I want to get people to pay attention from the very beginning on their health and fitness. People like Andy Elliott, Andy Friselli, David Goggins, a lot of different guys that have massive followings, great podcasts, and top selling authors and things like that. They made a great point, Clavon, and they said, if somebody walks into my office and they're in phenomenal shape, I already know a lot of things about that person before I even say one word.
That's right. Discipline.
Um, and they know they're disciplined. They know that they can persevere. They know that they're not afraid of hard work. And even if somebody is out of shape and is still a great employee, fantastic, the best employee that you could ever ask for, there's going to be a lot more convincing, because as soon as they walk in that door, that initial perception is going to be, oh, this person's lazy. This person isn't willing to put in the work. I'm not saying that that's true. There's a lot of people that struggle with the weight. I never thought that I was a lazy person. I just because I struggled with my weight. I was in the gym all the time. But the thing is, it doesn't take a whole lot of bad choices to if you don't have the perfect genetics, the perfect metabolism, and things like that, you can eat pretty good, you can exercise, and still struggle with your weight. I kind of look at it as the example: if I had a magnifying glass and I had direct connection with the sun, and there's some grass right in front of me, as long as that grass isn't wet, I should easily be able to start a fire. I just put that in, and if I let that go with the sun magnifying glass on this grass, I could get that all the way to where it starts smoking. Literally, could be seconds away from going on fire. I move it,
Hmm.
and I wait even 1 or 2 minutes, and then I go back. I could do that process unlimited times and never start a fire.
That's right.
And that's kind of the situation that I've been in for years. I
Hmm.
would go and I would hit the gym, I'd eat strict, I'd do all of that, I would start losing weight. That smoke's going. And then I'd go on a trip, or something would come up, I'd get home, let's say I just lost 8 pounds, I go on one trip, get back on the scale, I just gained all the weight back. I'm like, how in the world is that possible? I didn't feel like I ate that bad. I just ate normal food. I didn't do anything different. And then you do it again, you know, the next week and the next 2 weeks and this, that, and the other. And you go an entire year and it's like, okay, I lost 2 pounds or I gained 10 pounds. But at the end of the day, I maybe lost 120 pounds in the year. I
Mhm.
just gained 115 back, or I
Exactly.
gained 122 back. And so it really just came down to the point that for me, as just my own self, I have to be really focused in
Yeah.
order to lose the weight. Not every single person does. I guarantee you, some of the people that I work with that are in much better shape than I am, they eat way worse than I do and don't exercise anymore. And
Right.
so I'm not saying that it's fair, and I'm not saying that every single person is the same, and I'm definitely not saying that it's easy. But the basic concept is uh, we got to work with what we have, and
Yeah.
I think it can always get better. And the longer you wait to get started, the odds are the you know harder it is going to be, because you can be creating some damage throughout all of these years or all these decades of abuse that the body can recover, but it's not going to be instant. And we're in that fast food world, man. People want instant results, and they, if they don't get it, then they're just like, oh well, I guess I'm just meant to be fat. It's my body type. It's my genetics. It's
Mm.
this. It's that. It's whatever. Um, and I just wanted to say, hey, hey, I don't know exactly how good a shape or something like that I can get into, but I know I can do better, and I'm not going to quit. So I'm not on. I'm done with the diets. I'm done with those types of things. I'm just all about lifestyle,
Yeah.
and I had to switch my focus to being on weight loss, to just being on routine, follow a routine, and do it for different reasons than just losing weight. And I had to do the same thing for business, Clavon. I know we'll talk about that next, so I don't want to get into it right now. But they go so hand in hand.
Right.
It just to me, it was so frustrating that I could do these same things on business, but I couldn't do it with the diet side. And I like going to the gym. I like working out. So it was never one of those things that I hate exercise or I hate going to the gym. I've done that the whole time. And I also, again, like I said, people can believe it or not. It's not like I just sit with a tub of ice cream watching, football all day or something like that. But again, we all don't have the same metabolism and things like that, but we can all do our best, and that's that self check. Are you really doing your best? Because I felt like I was trying,
Mm-hmm.
and when I stepped outside and really evaluated, I'm like, you know what? You're trying, but you're not doing nearly as good as what you're capable of.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I did it. But the whole concept of health and fitness is just it. Uh, no matter how much money you have, you can't buy it. And
Right.
and when it's gone, it's too late.
Right.
And too many people wait until they have problems before they focus on it. And that's just not how our bodies work. It's so much better to um, work on prevention than it is on a cure. There's some things that they can't cure, and so it's always way better to prevent than it is to have the problem and try and cure it. So that's why health and fitness is at the front. Again, if 99% of the people were in great shape, we wouldn't need to focus on health and fitness. It wouldn't be part of uncommon. People would already be doing it.
Right.
But where we look at what does it take to move into the top 1 percentile of health and fitness, it's not nearly as good as it should be. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah. I hear you. What's up, Scott? We got Scott Pascal, one of our early guests on the Uncommon Movement. He talks about us leading from the front and giving you a compliment, man. He said, Dan, you're really an uncommon man. Yeah, Scott is awesome, awesome leader. And I know he understands why we have health and fitness at the forefront. Dan, as we keep moving forward, you know, um, we're going to talk about finances for a moment now, because I think most men, they got to wake up to see, hey, listen, health and wellness is number one, and then everybody falls into agreement, right? But then we move, and then because we all come up saying, hey, lifestyle. I want to get rich. I want to be wealthy. I want to leave back an inheritance, or I just want to be able to, provide for my family and live a good lifestyle. And I think most of us can relate to this idea of linear income. We've all been raised watching our parents trade time for money. Work 40 hours a week for 40 years, retire at 65, the whole 9 yards is, what hit me like a ton of bricks, Dan, was this idea of that when you look at your bills come residually, and so the $1 million question is, how do you pay, residual bills with an hourly wage? You always wind up having more month at the end of your money. And so we talk about financial literacy being the second pillar, because I don't think a lot of people understand what the real path to freedom is. And I want to ask you a question, because for me, if you can't pay your residual bills with residual income, you're never going to find yourself in a position where you have money left over. And it's that money that's left over that's necessary for investments. It's that money left over that's necessary, to be that seed principal income that maybe you don't touch and start letting your money make money. So when it comes to this idea of residual income versus linear income, why is that important to you? Why have you built all your business models behind people having the opportunity to make residual income? I mean, why is that literacy and understanding so important to the Uncommon movement?
You know what? I would say, because if I was going to say what is our most valuable asset as a human being, I'd probably say our health. If I was going to say what's our second most valuable asset, I would definitely say our time. And the only way that you can ever control your time is if your time doesn't, or is if your money doesn't depend on your time.
Wow.
So as long as we're focusing on linear income, we're never going to have control of our time. Somebody else, that paycheck, is going to tell us where to be, what to do, and how long we have to do it to cover our bills. And this isn't anything that I knew about, Clavon. I didn't grow up thinking about residual income. I didn't know anything about residual income. My very first class that I took in college was called Intro to Investments. And that was kind of my first introduction to residual income. And to understand residual income, it's basically just based on leverage. So it could be a royalty on something that sells. Every single time people buy it, you get paid. So just as an example, if I sold a product or a service, and let's say that product sold for $50, and I got $5 every single month that they ordered, and the first month I sold 100 of whatever this is, and I made $500. But it's a month supply, so the next month I'll purchase it again. The next month I'm going to start with the 500, and I'm going to build upon that. So I make another 100 sales. Now it's at 1,000, and then that third month I have $1,000 basically already in my bank before I even start. So if I make another 100 sales, now it's 1,500. I mean, that's not a perfect example, but that's how residual income works. Every time they continue to buy, I make more. So another thing that I learned with the Intro to Investments is kind of how leverage works. And so the very first day of class, they handed out a spreadsheet, and at the top said how to retire a millionaire, and then it had age brackets. And I was 18 at the time, so I looked at 18. And at 18 years old, what they did is they kind of figured the average retirement being 65. And so they said, how much would you have to put aside every single month for the next 47 years in order to have $1 million? And they made an assumption that isn't even guaranteed, and that was that you earn 10% per year on your investment. That's possible, but it's not guaranteed. There's no guaranteed 10% return on your money anywhere. And so that money, that happened to be $75 at 18. And every 10 years, it goes up about 5 to 10 times. So if I waited till I was 50 and I only had 15 years, I'd have to put aside something like $20,000 a month to end up with the or 10,000 or something like that, much more than the 75.
Right.
So if you look at that word leverage, what am I leveraging in that case? I'm leveraging two things. I'm leveraging money, $75, and I'm leveraging time, 47 years.
Mhm.
So if I look at that, the more money that I have, the less time I'm going to need.
Mhm.
The less money I have, the more time I'm going to need. So
Right.
I learned at 18 that it takes $75 invested for 47 straight years, never missing a month, in order to acquire $1 million if you got 10% per year. But to me, that was very exciting. In fact, Clavon, I looked around the room and I literally just kind of took a glance at everybody else sitting there. I'm like, holy cow, I just learned how to retire a millionaire, and it's 75 bucks a month. And I literally thought to myself, how many of these people in this room
Got it.
are going to retire a millionaire at $75 a month? And I said, I don't care, but I know this one is. So as soon as I got home, I called my dad to find out, how do I get involved in this? He recommended just getting the Yellow Pages, said, call a Franklin Planner or something like that. I called the Franklin Planner, came over to my dorm room, talked to me about, he recommended mutual funds. I knew nothing about stocks, knew nothing about mutual funds. But again, if you don't know anything about something, that's why you have experts. That's why you have financial planners to
Exactly.
to to do that. And I picked three different mutual funds, and I put $25 in each one. And
Mhm.
still to this day, I have those same three funds, and I have a lot of other things, but I have those same three funds, and
Wow.
I still put in $25 a month in all three of them. At this time right now, 32 years into it almost,
Mhm.
32 straight years, they're performing better than the 10%. So it will acquire more than $1 million by the time I'm 65, unless something crazy happens there. But that
That's
was my intro, and
right.
then I also saw the ability to build networks all over the world, moving products or services that
Well,
people
let me ask
purchase
you
monthly.
on that tip. Now, let me ask you because you may not go over some things that I know. Three things I know is that you invested time at a young age into. You just talked about the investments. I know that you were into life insurance. I know that you were in real estate and you were in network marketing. And I want to ask you, for those who don't know, because you've had your hands in multiple companies that have done billions of dollars globally in the network marketing space. Why didn't you become a broker and have a national real estate agency, or become a licensed life insurance agent, or take that to a higher level, have a firm, have life insurance agents all over the country? What was it about network marketing on a national and international scale that made you want to invest, be leadership CEO, and touch that level of residual income for you and the masses that would come
You
under
know
your?
what? The big thing was is I didn't get involved in real estate until the last 5 or 10 years. I didn't do anything in real estate. um, because my perception of real estate was you have to have a whole bunch of money in order to make money. And I also looked at it that it was kind of like the investing. I haven't done a ton of investing. I've done probably more than most people, but most of my investing has been just investing in myself. So I looked at it this way: when by the time I hired my programmers and had put together a network marketing company, I basically had it down. I could start a company for around $50,000. Like right now, I could start a network marketing company probably for 20,000. And my confidence level of making millions of dollars with that company is 100%. If there's give it 110%, my confidence level would be 110%. That I could take $20,000, start an MLM, and turn that into millions of dollars. I have not even a 0.1% doubt. I have zero doubt that I could do that. So it was very difficult for me to invest in other things because I'm like taking myself out of control, and I'm like, man, I can make so much money investing in myself. And I invested in a lot of other people. And 90% of the time that I invested in other people, I lost all the money that I put up. So I give this guy 250,000, don't even get a penny. Give this guy 500,000, don't even get a dollar. Do 100,000 for this thing, don't even get a dollar back. So I'm not too trusting of other people with my money. And one of the things that I've noticed is if you look at most of the companies that are completely self-funded, 100% self-funded, the success rate, I don't have statistics. This is my own opinion or perception. The success rate is at least 5 or 10 times higher than people that raise money and start on somebody else's money. And so I finally got involved in real estate and more investing and stuff like that. Once I acquired a lot of money and had a bunch of money sitting in the bank, to me, that made no sense. Right. If I make money, I want that money making money. Do you understand that? So I don't want money sitting in the bank and making the bank money, because here's the bottom line. If my money's sitting in the bank, they're loaning my money to other people and they're making money on my money.
Exactly.
If I'm not making money on my money, then I'm just an idiot. And so I started to have, more money than I was spending, which I guess should be everybody's goal. And I don't like it sitting in the bank. So then I started investing a lot in real estate. And the reason I started doing it in real estate was I didn't really feel as much like I was spending the money. Does that make, like, I go buy a commercial building, and if it costs 600,000 or 6 million, I still feel like I have access to that 600,000 or 6 million much more than like if I invested it in, and to have a little bit more control than like a stock of somebody else's company. So I just haven't studied the stocks as much as I probably should to feel super comfortable. I do have some stocks. I do have some cryptocurrency, some of those types of things that I've invested some money in. But most of the money's been invested in myself, my own businesses, and then a lot in real estate. But it's been that whole concept. If I, and I don't know how I came up with this. It wasn't like taught from my parents or something like that, but just how my brain has worked. I don't think I read it anywhere, but I when I was getting ready to graduate college, 1996, I had a goal that I didn't want to spend any money ever again that my money didn't make. And so if you think about that, it kind of changes your mindset. It changes your perception. Okay, if I want to buy something, then I better get some income coming in that will cover whatever I'm going to buy. So for an example, if I had, let's say, $1 million worth of Airbnb rentals, and I made around 10% per year on those rentals, that'd be 100,000 a year that I would make. That 100,000 is what I would use to buy things with.
Right.
And so that's kind of how I started focusing on things, is get completely debt free, and then don't buy anything unless you have an asset, money coming in to cover that. And I actually didn't necessarily count my network marketing commissions, even though that was residual. I didn't really count that for that. And the reason why is I looked at that more as my job than my money making money. So the money making money, it was just focused more on real estate, on investing, on those types of things. But I would recommend that everybody kind of puts a goal for that. Get to a point in your life that you're never spending any of your money unless it's money that money made. So that initial money that you've made is still there and not going anywhere. And that's kind of how I think that the wealth is created. But the reason I focus so much more on network marketing is it brought in a completely separate leverage factor. So we
Okay.
talked about leveraging time. We talked about leveraging money. Now with the network marketing, we're leveraging effort. And so I started to see that if I spent $75 a month for 47 years, if everything went perfect, that would turn into $1 million. That's leveraging time and money. Now, let's take a widget that costs $75. Let's just say that it's a protein shake, $75 for a protein. And then I have a business that pays me every single month on all of the protein shakes that I sell and the protein shakes that everybody in my organization sells. And then I start to look at, okay, how do I turn that into $1 million? And not getting into, there's all kinds of ways that you get compensated and stuff like that. I'll just give you kind of what the average would be, regardless of the compensation plan that somebody picked.
Mm-hmm.
But typically, it would take about 8,000 people ordering between $70 and $100 a month for you to make $1 million a year. 100,000 a month, 80,000 a month. So when I started to look at that, I started to break down those numbers, and it's like, man, is it going to take me 47 years spending that $75 a month to do something like that? And when I broke down those numbers, Clavon, let's say that I needed to make 2 sales.
Mm-hmm.
And then I want to create that duplication. I want to create that leverage. So I'm going to teach them how to make 2 sales. That's 4 people. Then teach them how to make 2 sales. That's 8 people. What does that need to get to 8,000?
Mm-hmm.
I can just jump through the numbers. It's going to take 12 steps.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's going to take me 1 week to make 2 sales, and it takes all of them the same, then that's 12 weeks to 100,000. If it's going to take me 1 month to make 2 sales, and it takes them all the same, that's 12 months to 100,000 per month. If it's going to take me 2 months to make 2 sales, that's 2 years. If it's going to take me 3 months to make 3 sales, that's 3 years. If it's going to take me 4 months to make 2 sales, and take every single one of them 4 months to make 2 sales, how is that even possible? How is it possible? It's not possible if they're actually trying. But then that's 4 years to make that 100,000 a month income or that $1 million a year. Now, when I sat there at 18 years old and in this course and got so excited about $75 a month and putting that aside for 47 straight years to accumulate $1 million, that's not $1 million a year. That's $1 million, period. And if that continued to get 10%, that'd be 100,000 per year, not 100,000 per month.
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw this other factor
Right.
of putting effort and leveraging effort, if I was that excited, Clavon, that I instantly got home from that class and called my dad to find out how I can, who can I give this $75 to? And I knew it was going to take 47 years to get that $1 million. How excited do you think I was when I got out a piece of paper and a calculator and I said, so if I can make 2 cells in 4 months, and nobody makes any more than 2 cells in 4 months, by the time I graduate college, I can be making 100,000 per month.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a genius, but that sounded a hell of a lot better to me than $75 a month for 47 years to make $1 million.
Right.
And I figured out how to do it. Period. I
And then
figured out exactly how many people it was going to take.
can you talk
I
to that?
figured out a strategy to do it,
The
and I did it.
Can you just speak on that a little bit more clear about leverage as it pertains to exponential growth? Because I don't think a lot of people catch that when you say 2 and then it goes to 4. Well, it's the 4 plus the 2. That's 6. And when that 4
Yeah.
goes to 8, it's the 8, the 4, and the 2. That's
Well,
14.
well, here's a perfect example. There's a chart out there that anybody can look at, Clavon, and there's people that have asked, would you rather take $1 million right now today,
Mm-hmm.
or a penny doubling every day for 30 days? People,
Yeah.
that's a question that's out there all over the internet, and it was just a question that was put together to show the power of geometric progression. So a penny doubling, first day is 1 penny, the second day is 2 pennies, the third day is 4 pennies. But this is just doubling. It's not still plus the one plus the whatever. So we're going from 1 penny. Now we have 2 pennies. We don't have 3 pennies. We have 2. Then we go from 2 to 4. We don't have 7. We have 4. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You factor that out for 30 days, it's $5 million. 31 days, if happened to a month with 31 days, it's $10 million. So everybody would be way better off to take the penny doubling every day for a month. But what you said, which is even stronger, is that adding your own effort into it. So if I made 1 cell, doesn't matter the cost. It could be a $10 cell, a $50 cell, a $100 cell, a 500. If I made 1 cell per month of a product or service,
Mm-hmm.
and I taught that person to do the same, let's look at that. So the first month is 1. I made 1 cell. The second month, I make another cell, that's 2. And the person that I sold to last month makes a cell, that's 3. So we didn't go 1, 2, we went 1, 3. The next month, those 3 make a cell, that's 3 more, that's 6. Plus I make a cell, that's 7. So we don't go 1, 2, 4, we go 1, 3, 7. It's almost double.
Yeah.
Just by us adding in our effort every single month. Now, if you fast forward that 30 months, it's over 10 million cells monthly. How much money, Clavon, do you need to make per month on 10 million cells for you to be happy? I mean, come on, if you made 50 cents per cell, you're making 5 million a month in 30 months. People are going to be going to high school for 3 years. If you count 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, 4 years if you go 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th. College is typically 4 or 5 years. But you find a product or a service that has the ability to pay you with all leverage available, time, money, and effort, and you can figure out how to make 1 cell. I can tell you this. It doesn't matter what it costs. It can cost $5, and within that 3-year period, you're going to be making $1 million a month. If you could do the almost impossible thing of making one $5 cell per month and teaching somebody else how to make one $5 cell per month. Again, it's so simple, Clavon, that I think people don't pay any attention to it.
Yeah.
And here's why. It's the same thing. While if somebody didn't have somebody else already do the math for them, every person would take the $1 million over the penny doubling.
Exactly.
Because even if you started doubling that penny and you're like, okay, 1 penny, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64. Okay, at the end of my first week, I'm a quarter way there. I have 64 cents.
Right.
And then I go the whole second week, and then it's like, man, I still have less than like $15. I don't need to go the next 2 weeks because what's that $15 going to turn into? It's never going to cross your mind that that's going to turn into 5 million. So you don't even figure it out. If somebody else didn't figure it out for you, how many people are going to go through the whole thing and figure that out, that it's 5 million?
Right.
So that's the same issue. Somebody says, oh, okay, I only have to make one sale per month and teach this person how to make one sale per month. And I make that sale my first month and I make a couple dollars and I'm not too excited. And I make the sell the next month and I make a couple dollars. That other guy makes a sell, I make a couple dollars. I'm not too excited. And you can go, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months into it, and you only have a handful of people.
Right.
And so you think, oh man, this isn't working because you didn't plot the whole thing out. You got to that first week and you made 64 cents and you said, okay, I'll take the $1 million. And that's just what happens. People don't like when results take time to measure. People don't like to have to look too far forward. And here's why. For whatever reason, people just sit there and focus on well, what if this happens? What if that happens? Think about 99% of what people worry about, Clavon, on a daily basis hasn't even happened.
That's right.
They don't focus on what could happen. And all these things that you're focusing on that haven't even happened, how many of them are positive compared to how many of them are negative?
Right.
I mean, we don't just sit there and focus on, man, if this happens and this happens and this happens and this happens, I'm going to be a billionaire. And if that was the case, everybody would be super excited. And they'd all have the complete, confidence that they're all going to be billionaires and everybody would think that they're crazy. But they don't think they're crazy when they focus on all these negative things in their life that have never happened and probably never will happen.
That's a good segue.
And if they do happen, you probably brought it on yourself because you're the one manifesting it to happen because that's all you focus on.
Yeah, that's a great segue into the next pillar because now you're talking about mindset and focus and thoughts. And, for those out there who are going to see this podcast, tonight or it's archived, I hope you pulled away from the financial empowerment that Dan just talked about. You got to know what leverage is. If you can catch the exponential growth, the residual income, that's great. But put yourself in a position where you're leveraged and you can earn income when you're not working and start investing where you can spend money, the money your money makes. I mean, you dropped some jewels there, brother. But I want to get to this third pillar that the uncommon movement stands on. Because I think that, I just really want to ask you. I want to ask you out of my own curiosity, Dan. I've traveled with you and seen you take a call, and it's about a warehouse and ingredients of products in Russia. And then you get off that call and something's going on in Czechoslovakia. And then, you go, hey, man, I got to fly down to Mexico. And, we got a big team growing and Costa Rica. And then, hey, we got some shipping issues in New York or whatever the case is. And so there's so many moving parts when you're dealing with global business.
Yeah.
There's so many responsibilities when you have hundreds of thousands of people, 1 million people in a company at any given time, right? And so you got a personal life, you have your own goals and dreams. You have so much that's being juggled. So I'm asking, do you find it difficult? Are there times when it's just like overwhelming? And what do you lean on? Because, and I want to ask you a couple of questions because the third pillar in the uncommon movement is a commitment to personal growth and development. Are you growing as an individual so you can look in the mirror and see the best version of yourself? For me, Dan, I just want to say that, I remember being an avid book reader. Someone asked me, what's the most powerful books you've ever read that empowered you? It may be I'm thinking, I wrote some down here. The Richest Man in Babylon. I heard you talk about the finances. Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill.
Yeah.
Who Moved My Cheese? Two more that I got here: The Four Agreements and As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. Just want to throw some of those out there. Was it book reading? Was it mentorship? Your parents? What prepared you for the roller coaster ride of responsibilities and frustrations that you got to deal with every day as a global businessman? Can you talk about personal growth and development and what keeps your mind sharp?
Yeah, you know what? I'm not a reader. I've read almost no books. I literally in my entire life
uh,
uh, can't think of more than two or three books that I've ever read.
I get it.
I've listened to some,
Yeah.
so I'm more of a book listener than a book reader. You'll probably never see me with a book in my hands. I can't even think of a fiction book that I've ever read.
Yeah. No.
Um, even when I needed to read it in high school, I normally didn't. Got Cliff Notes or something like that. I've just never been. Um, I don't know why. I've never really liked that aspect. I haven't been big into personal development unless it's hands on.
Okay.
So I've never liked the motivational speakers
Hmm.
because I've always just kind of looked at. I mean, I don't know. I think for whatever reason, I don't know if it was parents watching my parents. I've always been self motivated. Maybe being the youngest of five, two older brothers, two older sisters, and sports and trying to excel in sports. I'd probably say my best personal development was sports.
Okay.
Um, I think I learned more there than anything else, and having people to chase and wanting to be good. I think that was more driving for me. Learning to embrace the hard things,
Hmm.
and I had to do that through mindset, Clavon. And this is something that um, a lot of times I'd get frustrated when things were hard, want to quit. Nobody likes to do hard things. Like if you do something and it's super awkward and it's just hard, you don't like to do it. So what do you typically do? You just don't do it, or you skip that part. You know what I mean? And so I had to learn to embrace the things that were hard and figure out that hey, here's the end of the day. Most people are going to quit because it's hard.
Mhm.
So if I just get over that quitting stage, then I'm going to
Hmm.
have a better chance of winning. Let me give you an example. I always liked wrestling. Um, I wasn't the best wrestler or anything like that in the world. But one of my friends who happened to be basically about the same weight as me was an incredible wrestler. And so every single day in practice, he just kicked my butt every day. And I started to say, you know what? I hate losing like this every single time to this
Mhm.
person. He is a four-time state champion, which is so difficult. I think to be a four-time state champion wrestler is one
Yeah.
of the hardest things to do in sports because you have a ninth grader that more than likely is going to be wrestling a senior, somebody 4 years older at a time where males are maturing. A ninth grader is not the same human being as a senior in most cases. So to win state in wrestling is typically a freshman beating a senior, and then a sophomore beating a senior, junior beating a senior, and then senior, and then having to keep all the up and comers. So he's a four-time state champion,
Wow.
and it took a long time before I could beat him. I never could beat him more than he would beat me. He is just better at wrestling. But here's what I noticed: the best chance I ever had to beat him was the longer I could make it go,
Hmm.
and the more tired he would get, the better. And here's what started to happen. I started to become a much, much, much better wrestler when I realized one thing. I think I can beat the best almost easier than I can beat some people that are just in great shape.
Hmm.
Because the best wrestlers at the high school level, college level, they're all phenomenal. All of them are good. But at the high school level, the best wrestlers are typically way better than everybody else. So they rarely ever go past the first or second round in wrestling.
Okay.
And some of them, if you take into those deep waters, they'll almost roll over and let you pin them because they get so tired. They're not used to it. Never happens. They're always done. And so when I learned, hey, if I just get in phenomenal shape and I push them super hard and I get really good at being defensive and not getting taken down, or if they do take me down, they have to fight like hell to do it.
Yeah.
And then they have to fight even harder to keep me down. They're going to get tired quicker. And so when I learned those couple things,
So
I
you
started
that
to.
cultivation of the will, that cultivation of the will. What was that? What was that? What was that?
To me, first off, was observation
Okay.
of seeing some of these guys start to struggle if they don't win right away. And so
Observation.
I've always been very observant, and so I saw that. So then all of a sudden it's like, you know what? I need to get in better shape than the other people if I'm going to have a chance. And so then it really just kind of went from there. But then when I started to have these things and struggle in business, I started to try and figure out the same thing. So instead of being like, hey, I'm going to quit, I started to become way more passionate about how to overcome these struggles than I was ever thinking about quitting. So the difficulty did pretty much the exact opposite, Clavon. It didn't make me want to quit. It motivated me even more to figure out the solution. And I realized if I can figure this out, everybody else already quit. So if I just keep pushing, my chances of being successful are way more. Now, when I did read a book, I didn't even read the whole book, but the first job that I ever took that wasn't for my parents was I had quit doing network marketing after a couple companies in a row went out of business. I made some pretty good money with those companies, but I went to work for Blue Cross Blue Shield. I'd never worked for anybody other than my parents, and so I asked my brother, who was in motivational speaking and had been like probably as good a salesman as you can get, as good a speaker as you can find. And he told me to read, I think it's called The Art of Better Selling by Tom Hopkins. And what's interesting is I didn't read the whole book, but there's several things that I took from that book and put into play. And very first year with Blue Cross Blue Shield, got the Salesman of the Year, most group contracts written, most non-group contracts written in the entire state. And there was two other agents in my office. One had been there 17 years, one 13 years. I had never done it in my life. So you have somebody who had been there 13 years, somebody who had been there 17 years.
Wow.
I didn't even stay with the company for 2 years. Both of them quit after 1.5 years because the higher up managers raised the quota so much because our quota was 16. My first year I sold 37 groups. The most that had ever been sold was 23. And it wasn't because I'm like the brightest guy in the world. I basically was like, okay, we're selling group health insurance. That's businesses. I'm going to talk to every single business. What the other agents did is they waited for somebody to call them that just got a renewal from their health insurance company that they just raised the rate. So now they're shopping. My concept was completely different. I didn't want to wait till somebody was shopping.
You were naturally proactive, like just instinctively proactive through
Well, I think it
observation.
was no, I think it was because of the network marketing that
Okay.
I figured out how to build the network marketing, and so then I go into traditional business and I have a
Right.
strategy that's like so much better than anybody else's. But here was my entire concept. When somebody's shopping, I want every single one of them thinking of me. The only way that's going to happen is if I contact every single one of them and build a relationship with them before they're shopping. Like if I was going to sell cars, I think I'd be the top car salesman at the lot. not because I'm the best car salesman, because I would create a strategy that would get that anybody in my area that was looking to buy a car would think to call me.
Right.
Everybody else is waiting until somebody's looking to buy a car before they talk to them.
Right.
No, I'm not waiting for them to. They're a business that might have group health insurance or might be in the market for group health insurance sometime in the future. So my goal was if they ever are in the market, that they're going to think of me. So
Dan,
other people are waiting till somebody's looking to buy a car and then they try and sell them the car.
you have the opposite
I'm
approach.
looking that if you're ever in your lifetime going to look to buy a car,
Think
that
of
you're
me.
going to give me a call.
Let me ask you this, Dan.
It's a different mindset.
Yeah, let me ask you this because this is like really different because most people, when it comes to personal growth and development, if they're telling their story or if they're giving advice, it's always, what are you reading? What are you listening to? What are you watching?
Yeah.
Who's your mentor? Right. And like, so would you say if you were teaching, because this is what I'm picking up from what you're putting down, I don't think a lot of people just look at their life and find where you've developed the slight edge, where you've developed skill sets, growth and development, and apply that to winning. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm listening to you, like, okay, I picked up observation here. I picked up branding myself here. I picked up getting ahead of the curve and here. And it's just like you didn't need all that stuff. Not that you didn't need it, but your reference point is your life experiences. And would you say that most people need to go a little deeper into that?
I would say it's partly my life experiences, Clavon, but I would say it's more other people's life experiences
as well. Okay.
So I saw things that they were doing. So for an example, things that I got from Tom Hopkins, The Art of Better Selling, are very similar to Jeff Olson's book, The Slight Edge. He just had little things that I put into play. And here's just an example. So the only way in group health insurance that you can get an accurate rate. So I don't know anymore. I haven't followed up on this is, 20 some years ago. But from the best rate that Blue Cross Blue Shield had to a guarantee issue, because group health insurance is a guarantee issue, meaning that health insurance company has to take it regardless of the health conditions in that group. So group health insurance is a guarantee issue. Non-group is not. That's why a lot of people want to get a job for the benefits, because that health insurance company's got to take them. They can't decline them. Now, non-group, they can just decline you and say, no, we're not going to insure you, Clavon, or we're not going to insure you, Dan. Right. But group, they have to. But the difference between the lowest rate and the highest rate was around 123%. Okay. Significant difference. And in some cases, a 63 or 67%, depending on the company, depending on the policy. But it's significant. So the only way that you can get even close to an accurate rate at all is they have to fill out the applications and go through the underwriting process. Mm-hmm. So when I would explain, the only way that I can even be within like 50 to 100% is fill out the application. So that was my first goal, is get them to fill out the applications. But then how I'd get them to start thinking about me is when they fill out the applications, they put in their birthdays and stuff like that, not just of them, but also of their kids. And so then I'm just like, well, I'm the people that are making the decision, not every single person at the company, but the decision makers, the higher management, I'm going to send all their kids' birthday cards, and I'm going to send them and their wife's birthday cards. And with that, I'm going to send a reminder that if you're ever looking, I would love to work with you. And so I made the first goal that I want to have every single company get an accurate price from me. They didn't all do it on the first time, but I every question that every company I met with, I'd find out when the renewal is. And I already knew there's almost 100% chance as soon as they get that renewal, the insurance rates are going up. Right. So rates are always going up. You almost never, unless you have a health condition in an employee, that employee leaves, they're still not going to drop your rates the same that we would drop them if we never had that risk to begin with. So I'd tell somebody, if your rates go down, I guarantee you they're not going down to where they should. Right. And if your rates go up, we don't know, but if people's rates go up, most of the time, that's when they're willing to shop it. But then when I would convince them, not convince them, educate them that if your rates went down, they didn't drop it to what they could have. We can probably, if the rates go up, we can maybe beat it. If your rates went down, I basically guarantee you we'll beat it. And so just kind of going through those conversations and sending out all these birthday cards and stuff like that, it only took, 6, 7, 8 months to hit almost every single company in my territory before my phone was nonstop ringing of people calling me in order to give them rates. Same thing in network marketing. It didn't take forever before more people were calling me that they were looking for something than I was calling trying to get them to look for something. But it was the same concept. I was like, okay, most network marketers aren't successful. I know exactly why they're not successful. So my mind, for whatever reason, looked at that as a massive opportunity. And the opportunity was if 90% of the people aren't successful, and I know why they're not successful, that's a much bigger opportunity than if 90% of the people are successful.
Makes sense.
Because then what do I have to offer? They're already successful. The opportunity is when most people aren't successful and you know why. That's all opportunity. That's why there's any benefit in self-help. That's why you have life coaches, because most people are not successful in life. If I'm a life coach and I know why they're not successful, then I can write my own check, because there'll be people that aren't successful that want to learn why they're not successful, and I'm going to teach them that. And so those are the things that I just kind of put together. But I learned some from books. I learned some from listening to things. I will tell you something. I've always had a mind that's kind of always going. I'm always thinking of different things. So at night, it was always difficult for me to fall asleep. And so from a young age, I would always listen to stories. And then my parents were members with Nightingale Conant. So they had like Dennis Waitley, Psychology of Winning, a bunch of Zig Ziglar stuff, some Brian Tracy stuff, all kinds of, different things like that. And so I kind of went from listening to like stories to listening to like Zig Ziglar and all of those. But what did Zig Ziglar mostly do? Tell stories. But I literally for years and years and years listened every single night, falling asleep to those types of things. I was never a big reader, but to kind of get my mind off, still to this day, I kind of need some noise. I'm one of those that people hate to have the radio on to go to sleep, or the TV on or something like that to go to sleep. If it's just like pure silence and it's hard for me to get my brain shut off so that I go to sleep. So I've always been one that listens to music or something, or it's super hard for me to fall asleep. Still to this day.
What about before we move on? There's just one or two more aspects we want to share with the world, but right before we move on from personal growth and development, what's your take on leadership? Dan, like, where are you with leadership? I mean, hey, do you consider yourself a great leader, man to man, person to person? And do you use any personal growth and development techniques to enhance your leadership? How do you feel about that in your position?
My leadership has always been lead by example, and people, like if I'm doing something that's very successful, I don't have to say a whole lot.
Right.
If I'm not having success, it's going to be so hard to motivate people and to get them to follow me. And so that's really just been my whole thing of leadership is just don't ask anybody to do what you're not already willing to do.
Right.
I look at so many times people just want everybody else to put in all the work.
Right.
And they don't realize that the harder you work, the better you do, the easier it's going to be to get other people to do exactly what you're doing. If you're in a duplication business and you're not doing very well yourself, then you're not going to do well. very
Right.
often. I would never say never, because
Right.
some people are, good at motivating others and holding other people accountable and not themselves, but not very often. There's not
Yeah.
very many people that aren't self accountable that hold other people accountable.
Right.
Or even if they try and hold those people accountable, it's like, how many great personal trainers are there that are 100 pounds overweight?
Right.
They could have all the knowledge,
Right.
right?
Doesn't translate.
They could have way more information than the guys that are in good shape and be a way better personal trainer. But it's going to be hard for somebody to follow their leadership when they're trying to teach me how to lose weight and they're 100 pounds overweight themselves.
Exactly.
That's why I see a lot of these MDs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have these MDs telling everybody that, oh, the cold plunge and this and fasting and all these things, that's just a bunch of garbage and it's not even safe. And then they're 50, 60 pounds overweight and
Yeah.
they're an MD, and all they're doing is, somebody goes to them and has all kinds of health challenges, and they're not even being in, well, that's because you're eating this, you're not exercising, you're drinking, you know 4 liters of Diet Coke every single day, and
Right.
they're not even telling them about that. They're just saying, okay, we need to put you on this for this, and then this and this, and so, it's just kind of a crazy thing. I think that's the opposite of leadership. So my whole thing on leadership, Clavon, has really been, um, by example. I've always been like, if I'm not doing all this stuff myself, how can I ask somebody else to do it?
Right. Right. I love it. I love it. You touched on two great things before we move on. I just the whole thing with the MDs that, like what you just described, is they don't focus on nutrition. They don't even understand that and their approach. They want to subscribe, medicines and leading by example. Then that's got to be it. The greatest definition I ever heard of leadership is the ability to get people to do what you want them to do, what you need them to do willingly, and that willingly comes from the fact that they like you, they're inspired by you because you're doing exactly that, right? Leading by example.
Yeah.
You can be
What
trusted. And I
One
think
of my
that's
favorite sayings, Clavon, was from Les Brown, and we've had him speak at several different events, and he talked about, that whole saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And
right.
he said, but you can make that horse awfully thirsty. So as soon as he gets to that water, he's going to want to drink.
Well,
You
that's
know what I mean? So just think about that concept. If you
yeah,
get on a horse and you run that horse dang near to death, as soon as he gets to water, he's going to be drinking.
right, right.
And so that's that whole concept, is to build that thirst by being that example.
Yeah,
So when somebody wants to be successful and they see you, they're going to do exactly what you say because they want to be where you're at. As
that's right.
opposed to, if and this is the hard thing in business. My start, Clavon, I need to go do a video sometime. Maybe if I remember tomorrow, when I'm driving through the town I'm in St. George, Utah right now. The town I went to college in is about 45 miles north. I'll go take a picture of the trailer that I lived in when I was building this empire, and people will see it was nothing exciting or fancy. On the trailer side, of the trailer park, it was pretty pathetic in a trailer park. And trailer parks aren't known for having the nicest houses
Not
in the
really.
that are out there. And
You
so
got
it
you got
wasn't
to
even nice. Wasn't
you
even nice for a trailer. And so when I'm teaching people about business and how to make millions of dollars, and I live in not even a full single wide 14 by 70 trailer. It was like 12 by 50 with a tip out. Um, who's going to listen to that?
That's amazing.
And here's what I can tell you. Pretty much nobody.
Right.
So how I had to build was through marketing.
Hmm.
Find people that wanted what I have. They respond to something. I give them information that I'm not necessarily talking to them at the time about making millions of dollars. I'm just making a simple sell. and then I'm teaching them some very simple marketing techniques that they can make a simple sell,
Mhm.
and built from there, and just felt like my phone was an equalizer, because as soon as I talk to somebody on the phone, whether I'm making $0 and live in this little crappy trailer, or I'm making 200,000 a month and live in this beautiful home, for that first 5 seconds we're the same. We're a
That's
telemarketer.
growth and development that people need to hear about. I mean, that posture, you had the same posture when you were in the trailer that you did when you had millions. I mean, where'd that come from? I mean, we got to go on to the fourth
Yeah, I
pillar.
wouldn't say it's the same posture, Clavon. I'm just saying that for that first 5 seconds, we're the same person. We're a telemarketer that the person just wants to hang up on. So I just
I-
had to I just had to figure out some different things in order to move the conversation in my direction. So I'm not trying to sell them, because I'm just trying to get them some information so they can make a decision.
right.
And so when I realized that, everything became a little bit easier. But it's all baby steps, and the reason for Uncommon is to take these things that I've learned over 30 years and eliminate that whole learning curve, because I didn't get rich nearly as fast as I could have. Like right now, if I'd go back at 18, knowing every single thing I've learned over the last 30 years, I don't think it would take me nearly as long to make the money as it did.
Absolutely.
Um, because I spent a long time, years, doing things that I realized didn't work. But
You be able to expedite the learning curve.
they did work in training that patience, that perseverance, that attitude of not quitting.
Let me ask you about accountability, because I believe that most movements that I've seen, uh, whether they were men empowerment movements, group movements, it doesn't even
Yeah.
matter. Culture, gender, none of that mattered. The ones that failed, there was a lack of accountability. There
Yeah.
was a lack of standards. There was a lack of commitment. I think holding yourself accountable, accountability partners, or group accountability, I think it's underestimated. I think it's really special. You got concept that people will do more for another person sometimes than they'll do for themselves.
Yeah.
Um, um, and I think one of the special mysteries of accountability, Dan, is that people want to know someone cares about their goals and their dreams and their desires. Sometimes it gets lonely. And when it
Yeah.
is lonely, it's easy to quit. It's easy to turn your back on your own commitment, your own word. Nobody's looking. Nobody even
Yeah.
knows.
Yeah.
But accountability is like, man, it's almost why kids join gangs. It's almost
Yeah.
why like that kid would rather get a beating from his parents than be kicked out the house and feeling like nobody cares. It's huge, and so I understand why it's number four. I want you to talk about accountability. I mean, even you, Dan, do you have an accountability partner personally, and why was sticking this as the fourth, pillar so important to you?
Well, let me explain one thing just really quick so that people kind of understand the whole concept of what we're doing here. The first two things are the goals. So the health and fitness and the residual income, that's what we're trying to do. The
Right.
third and the fourth thing is what's necessary in order to make those two things happen. So our goal is to move people to the top 1% in health and fitness, to move them top 1% in income, specifically residual income. We do that through personal development and accountability. Here's what I've learned on accountability. The only way somebody can be accountable is they have to have something to be accountable to. So if I don't have something to hold somebody accountable to, there's no way that there can be any accountability. And so those are things that I learned, Clavon. And here's a question I'd ask people all the time. Remember, I saw the massive opportunity, knowing that 90% of network marketers aren't successful, knowing exactly why they weren't successful. So here's the question I came up with that to me has probably been at least worth 10, 20, 30, 40 million dollars.
Hmm.
So this question could be worth the same to you. So I know this person's 90% chance that he's not as successful as he'd like to be, or he still wouldn't be looking. So I'd ask him this, Clavon, the reason that you haven't reached all your goals in network marketing, do you think it's because you're just lazy and not willing to do anything? Or because nobody's ever showed you exactly what to do?
I would say B.
Everybody says B. Now, here's why this is important. Now I have something to hold you accountable to. Because you said it wasn't because you're just lazy and not willing to do anything. You said it's because nobody's ever showed you exactly what to do.
Right.
So what I had to put together was an exact launch plan. So now all of a sudden you're in my system. I have an exact launch plan. And Clavon, you don't launch. Now accountability comes. I say, Clavon, remember that discussion that you said that the reason you felt that you wasn't successful isn't because you're lazy, isn't because you're not willing to do anything. It's because nobody's ever told you exactly what to do.
Yeah, I remember.
You know what? I'm doubting that. Because we've told you exactly what to do and you haven't done it. So do you actually want to make changes in your life, or do you just want to live a life of struggle? Because I'll tell you what, I don't want to waste my time. There's no need for me to waste my time. I already know what works. I already know this launch. I already know this system works. I've made tens of millions of dollars doing this. I'm not a babysitter. So here's what happens. That conversation typically either gets the person to launch or gets the person to just give up and quit. I don't care which one it is. I want them to do one or the other. I want them to launch or quit. And if I was a coach, I was never a coach, but some of my best coaches got a lot of the whiny babies to quit. And it was necessary to get them off the team to become successful. Because if all these people are pissing and moaning and whining and complaining, it takes time away from things that need to get done in order for the success to happen. If you're trying to build a sales organization and you have a bunch of people pissing and moaning about whatever it is, I virtually guarantee you your group's going to be better without them. Because they're taking too much of your time, too much of your brain power, and they're doing that even more so on other people on the team. Because people want to get together, gather in groups, and sit there and make up all the reasons why they're not being successful and spend all day talking about all those reasons instead of actually making it happen. So the most important thing for accountability is creating that thing that you can hold them accountable to. So if it's weight loss, and I know that your weight loss goals are to lose 50 pounds over the next 90 days. And I say to you, Clavon, do you need to lose 50 pounds because you're just fat and lazy and not willing to do anything? Or the reason is nobody's really ever educated you on the proper diet, proper exercise, and all of these things. It's that same thing regardless of whether it's business or not. You have to have something to hold them accountable to. That's the goals, that's their dreams, that's their why, that's their whatever that is that they say. So if I find out what is somebody truly wanting to accomplish and I get their why are you doing this? I have something to hold them accountable to. If I find out their goals, I want to lose 25 pounds. I have something to hold them accountable to. I want to make $2,500 a month. I have something to hold them accountable to. No, I'm not successful, not because I'm not willing to do anything, because nobody's ever told me exactly what to do. I have something to hold them accountable to. So accountability only comes into play if I have something to hold them accountable to. I think that's one of the things that people need to understand. Because there is no accountability if there's nothing that I've said that I want to accomplish. So I think one of the reasons that most people struggle with accountability is they've never told somebody their goals. They've never told somebody their dreams. They've never told somebody what they're trying to accomplish.
Right.
And so without telling them, then you're not accountable. And most people would rather not be accountable because then it can always be somebody else's fault. So I think accountability has to happen. And in order for that to happen, whatever your goals are have to become public.
Yeah, that's it.
So there is accountability. If it's all private, there's no accountability other than self accountability. Self accountability is important, but again, the most people are not self accountable, or else there wouldn't be such a small percent of the people that really make success. Now, here's when I'm talking about the 1%, Clavon, I would think that the 1% would be amazing.
Yeah.
The 1% is really not that great. Like the real goals, like when we're talking about uncommon, where we're moving people, it's more like the top 0.1%
Yeah.
That's how poor the average person is doing in this life. That if you move to the top 1%, you still wouldn't be doing that great. We're talking about like the top 1/10 of 1% before you start to get into the life that somebody would say, that's the life that I want to live. The top 1%, most people wouldn't think that that's an amazing life.
Yeah.
So that's a big problem.
You look at it from that perspective. That's huge. And Dan, I think that anyone who watches, this is a very special uh, broadcast because people will be able to hear the method to the madness and really hear, from the engineer of the uncommon movement, the science behind these pillars, man. That was really strong and powerful. I just think people need to get it and listen to it and take notes, refer people to this. This is the real deal. That's why you got to share this broadcast, guys. If you're out there, all the men, get it to other men because they need to understand what accountability truly is from a personal and a group perspective. That was strong. And last but not least, I'm gonna talk about number 5, and then I'm gonna ask you $1 million question, Dan, before we close out. But number 5 is something I know you're passionate about. But hey, it's something that my mom was passionate about. I watched it growing up my whole life. My beautiful mom's heart of just giving back. Giving back is just whether it's philanthropy, whether it's just the heart and soul of the community. It can be anything. It can be how you tip a waitress. It can, or a waiter. It can be how you work with community centers and work with the youth. And there's so many creative ways. I know there's so many people out there that spend their holidays feeding the homeless or giving out gifts or doing whatever they can do. I had the chance to get out to Mexico with Be Epic, and they had this big celebration event for top, producers, and it was a celebratory for your family. I remember your mom was celebrated out there. I think it was her birthday weekend, and it was just one of those amazing experiences. But the underlining culture of the event out there was giving back. I remember spending, watching the entire team of leaders from all over the world spend, 2 or 3 hours putting together school supplies, making a fun game out of it, packing book bags and, all types of important educational school supplies, and then traveling and giving them out to all the children throughout, that region of Mexico. And that was like something I know you were more proud of than anything else. And just watching that, just knowing that's a big theme with for you, I know you coined the phrase "get rich and give back," but it's the small things I see you do as well. So, I want to just talk about, why giving back is so important to you. Where did that come from? Where did you, see that? What inspired that? And then why is that, last but not least, a big part of the uncommon movement?
You know what? I don't think it's something that came super early, Clavon. What that came from was the realization that making all this money and doing all these things, everything that I thought would make you happy, doesn't really make you that happy. Doesn't last very long. But the one thing that almost every single person that I've ever met that truly brings happiness is helping others and giving back. And it became a point that the older I got, like when I was a young kid, I mean, I didn't care about giving gifts. I just wanted, all the Christmas, I was all excited about what gifts I'm going to get.
Right.
But then as a parent, I was always more excited for like Christmas than my kids. I'd get to where I'd want to wake my kids up to come and see what Santa brought. You know what I mean? Because of the joy that it gives them. And so I just started start to realize that it's almost like selfish. So one of the reasons I like to give back and help others is it brings me joy to see these people happy. There's a lot of areas of the world that we donated tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars every Christmas to give people gifts that wouldn't even have them. And you think of like kind of these spoiled kids that are throwing a fit because they didn't get exactly what they wanted. And then you see this kid that was literally getting nothing, that just gets something that most people wouldn't even think was cool, and they're the happiest person in the world. And just experiencing that over and over and over, it just I don't know, it just brings joy and the passion I have of creating opportunity, so that it's kind of that concept of, all the way go back to the Bible and things like that, or the saying, you can give a man a fish and feed him for a day, or you can teach him to fish and feed him for life. And so that's what's really driven me about making money through offering opportunity, is that teaching people how to create their own economy, how to not have to depend on anybody and create their own success, as opposed to just going and making money in real estate or something. You asked that question before. I could go make money in real estate. Okay, that's cool. I make money for myself, and then I can donate some money. But donating that money is nothing like providing an opportunity to these countries, providing an opportunity to these kids.
Yeah.
Now, so I like to look at giving back all of the ways. But every time I give a present, or I give a gift, or I give dollars, that's super temporary. That gift's going to get old. The money's going to get spent, and typically on things that they won't even remember what they spent it on 6 months from now. Like that tipping a waitress $200 or $300. They're going to remember that $300 tip.
Yeah, forever.
But they're probably not going to remember where that $300 went.
Right.
But teaching the concept of giving back is going to bring joy into everybody's life who starts to do it. So everything I'm focused on and doing is all kind of built around giving back, even if you break down the opportunity, even if you break down the Uncommon Movement, what it is, why I'm doing it. It's because in my opinion, it's what life's all about. Life is about struggling and overcoming, and then teaching other people how to overcome so that they can skip the struggling. That whole concept of the best way to learn isn't through your own experience. It's not through trial and error. It's through other people's experience. And so what I think will happen is people don't have to go and make all this money and do all of these things to realize the true definition of success, in my opinion, is just being happy. And typically, that doesn't come from the amount of money you make, the type of car you drive. It's unbelievably temporary. Now, the experiences you can have, the things like that with money, I'm going to tell you, it's way better to have money than to not have money.
Right.
But there's a lot of people with a lot of money that are miserable and aren't happy. So it's the whole picture that Uncommon brings, with the simple goal to bring as many people as we possibly can to be successful. And I think what they're going to realize that success is peace, calm, happiness. And that comes through these five things. And with
Yeah.
that last one being giving back. And so the healthier they are, the more fit they are, the more income that they have, the more knowledge they have, the accountability, giving back, the chance of creating what we would all call very successful people
That's it.
is there. But that success isn't to get these people millions of dollars. It isn't to, do to look like a supermodel or something like that. It's really to be happy.
Right.
And the chances, if you have money, if your health is there, all of these things, the accountability, you're giving back, you're doing things, that somebody's going to be like, you know what? I love life.
That's
I want
right.
to live as long as I possibly can. The chances are better if they become uncommon in these areas than if they're just in the masses struggling by and just thinking that, life sucks and then you die. You know what I mean? That becomes a saying because a lot of people feel that way.
Then let's close out with something that's really, really, really important. Um, and I want everyone to understand. I know, like from my perspective, the uncommon movement is like a global campaign. Calling this coalition of men to come together and say, "Here's a blueprint for success." On your terms, no matter how you describe it. If you work with us on these 5 areas as a culture, you're going to win, right?
Yeah.
You're going to win. And so, but there is another element that we don't talk about often. We interview people who are an inspiration to the factors of this movement. But I want to do something special tonight in closing, and just have you just kind of drip this on folks, because in order to usher in some change, there needs to be an opportunity, and the
Yeah.
uncommon movement's only part of it. That there's something that we're monetizing as a group to make this tangible, to make it real. And I know how much we've talked about the importance of mental health for everyone, but specifically young males and adult
Yeah.
men. Mental health. Uh, I don't think we want to give too much right now about the different areas of mental health, the products that the uncommon movement is going to be taking out to the world. But there is one signature product that is I think the key to the movement right now, and it's our ability to monetize AI technology.
Yeah.
Um, as almost like the fuel for this uncommon, rocket ship. And I just wanted you, Dan, if we can just take like these last, 3 to 5 minutes, and just talk about, for those who don't know, why getting on the ground floor of a global digital product like AI technology, a product that you put millions of dollars into, that I know you're proud of, why it's so multifaceted, why is it such a good gamble? Why is it such a good deal to tie yourself to a residual product like this? And why is this product the one you chose to be the fuel for the uncommon movement? Can you just talk about AI for a second, for those who may not know that's one of our major focuses?
Yeah. I'll just give a couple, two quick examples. I'll try and keep it as quick as possible. Through the research I've done, there's around 600 to 700 million high school to college students worldwide. So from ninth grade to college, somewhere around 6 or 700 million is the closest number I could see. Here's what I know: 100% of them are going to be using AI. 100%, for sure, no doubt. So you have a massive market for that. AI is very singular, meaning you have chatbots, you have prompt builders, you have graphics, you have video, you have voice over voice cloning, and each system does one of those things.
Right.
And then you have other ones that are even more singular than that. It just does one thing, period. That's it. And so we saw just a massive opportunity to build a product that basically puts all of these things under one umbrella so that you can go with one AI platform instead of 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 20. And knowing that 100% of students are going to use it. And so why are 100% of students going to use it? Because it's better. I mean, why do we drive cars instead of walk everywhere?
Right.
Why do we fly and across the ocean instead of take a boat? Why do we use a calculator to figure out math instead of writing it out and figuring it all out by hand? Everybody is going to use AI in school. What does that mean? Why is everybody going to use it in school? And then they're just going to stop using it when they graduate? Because most jobs are going to want people that understand AI, or else they're not going to be as effective and as efficient as somebody who understands it. Meaning, why in the world would I hire somebody that doesn't know anything about AI when there's going to be hundreds of millions of people popping up that know about AI? Who would I rather hire as an employee? Clavon, think about it. You have a business. Would you want to hire somebody that knows everything about AI or somebody who doesn't even know what AI is?
Of course, somebody who knows it.
There's no question. So that's why it's where the world's going to. It's what the future's going. And if you don't believe it, one of the most successful investors in the history of the world, one of the first investors in Alibaba, the person who brought Apple to Japan, one of the largest funds out there, started to see all of these opportunities. And his biggest frustration was, man, I just wish that I had a bigger fund. I wish that I had more money. So he had the vision to create the largest fund in the history of the world, $100 billion fund.
Wow.
Which he created, $100 billion. And here's, I want to explain how big $1 billion is. If you made $1 per second, it would take somewhere around 12 or 13 days to become a millionaire. It would take 33 to 36 years. The reason I'm saying a variance is I don't remember the exact. 33 to 36 years to become a billionaire. 12 days to become a millionaire. He raised $100 billion. Biggest fund by far in the entire world. And then he said, I'm going to invest every single dollar into AI. This is the guy who's been known for predicting the future in business better than anybody else in the world. Think about it. It makes sense. Why would you create the biggest fund if you wasn't pretty dang confident in the person putting it together? So when you have the biggest fund ever created in the history of the world, and the person who put that fund together said, I'm going to invest every single dollar of this into AI.
AI, wow.
What does that tell you?
It's the wave of the future. It's right now.
It's the biggest thing that the world's ever seen. It's the biggest wave that you're going to see in your lifetime. Wow. We're at the very, very beginning of it. So all those times that somebody's like, oh boy, I wish I was at the beginning of this or that, or blah, 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 blah. Well, you're at the very beginning of the wave that's probably going to be bigger than anything that anybody's ever experienced. You better learn about it. And so that's why we wanted to put the 16 to infinity in front of this AI train, because it's something that if you don't know and you want to be efficient and you want to have a worth in business, you better learn it. Because here's the bottom line. I guarantee you, you cannot compete in any area with somebody who truly understands AI. Wow. They'll beat you in anything. Just by having all the knowledge in AI, not even having the knowledge, and you have a PhD in whatever, guess what? They'll destroy you. So that's just it is what it is. You have the biggest fund in the history of the world. That the guy who created that said he's putting it all in AI, you have 600 or 700 million students that are all going to be using AI, which means they're all going to have a basic understanding, which means everybody entering the Salesforce from now and to the future is going to have an understanding of AI. If you don't, you're going to become irrelevant. So unless you're already retired and you've already done those things we've talked about, and you have that leveraged residual income and you're good, I don't care what age bracket you are, it's going to be in your best benefit unless you're financially done to learn AI.
Wow. Wow. I'll tell you something. Calling all men, you know, so many times you go through these moments in life, Dan, where you feel like maybe you've maximized your potential as an individual. And I just think quietly a lot of people are calling to be a part of something special. And I think, you know, if you watch this podcast tonight, or if you see it the next couple of days, or whenever you see it, it's going to be archived on our social media platforms and on our YouTube channel. You know, just have the courage to take action. I mean, reach out, extend your hand, and just be a part of something special that's going to make history all over this country and globally. You know, this uncommon movement is the real deal. And I think tonight we did a great job. Dan, you did an awesome job breaking down the fundamentals and the need and the why. I mean, we are really solving a major problem, serving a serious need, and this was exciting. You know, I'm gonna go back and watch this this podcast myself, man. Before you know, your closing remarks, guys. Remember, if you did watch this on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. If you watched it on social media, like the broadcast and share it, and just, you know, align with us, man. Each one teach one, and let's continue to make history. Then closing remarks, man. This is a great episode 16, brother.
All right, 4 months in, just getting started.
Just getting started. Well, listen, man, we came, we saw, we conquered. This was awesome. Listen, guys, we'll be back next Monday. We're going to reload the clip and have some more guests for you over the next couple of weeks. And then we're going to continue to make history. So this podcast is officially over.
All right. Thanks, guys.